Hey, you not gonna listen to that prayer to blood cleat, yo. Ladies and gentlemen of the People's National Party of Jamaica and of the world, you not gonna hear that prayer. You not gonna hear about to the ancestors and mark ancestors.
Rapakasatoria, cut and clear, Holy Spirit. In the name of Jesus Christ, I declare strength and I pray against disgrace. I pray against disappointment. I pray against failure. I pray against embarrassment. I pray against, oh God Almighty, mental disorder. I pray against confusion. I pray against mix-up spirit. And I declare that he will think straight. He will walk straight. He will sign straight. He will, oh God Almighty, he will debate straight. He will argue straight. Everything that he does will be done straight. For a straight leader we want. Holy Ghost leader. Godly leader. In the name of Jesus Christ.
You know, she said them pick up what going with Mark. When people are praying for you, know, and people are praying for you, them are praying for whatever problem you're going through at the time, don't it? Yeah, what Mark about you? Mix up spirit of mental disorder. Oh, the blood. Good morning, princess. Coming at this. Jesus are tired. PNP, you're not tired. We're not tired of the circus. Everywhere in the world, circus take time and phase out. I must say one and two look place you can go in the world and see one circus. And I can't believe say in Jamaica. Me never see circus so me I grew up in the 80s and 90s and look at this Jesus Christ Mark going in the circus. So look at circus in a prayer.
By the blood, sweat and tears of our ancestors. Our ancestors didn't come here as free people. Our ancestors didn't come here as free people. Our ancestors didn't come here as free people. I pray against embarrassment. I pray against, oh God Almighty, mental disorder. I pray against confusion. I pray against mix-up spirit.
Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here with me for the first time, welcome. Please remember to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, share, as well as feel free to leave your comments in the comments section, and I thank you in advance. To my subscribers, welcome back. Always lovely to have you. Yes, you know the ropes. You're going to give the video a thumbs up from now on. Please give the video a thumbs up, share, and then return. Of course, you know, you are quite welcome to leave your comments in the comment section, and you have been doing so very nicely. I thank you in advance as well. And of course, you know, I do appreciate your support. So now that you're back with me, let's get down to business. What are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be looking at the installation conference of the Nishka Williams in Southwest St. Anne on Sunday, which would be what? The 19th day of January 2025. And the Englishman, fresh from the sting of what the psychiatrist Sophia Longmore had to say in the Parliament, in the Senate on the Friday before, made his, comments, I suppose, trying to prove that he is a man of sound decision, or as Dayton Campbell would say, a man of mental capacity to make sound decisions. Yes. So he made his statement, and we're going to be looking at it and see what clues we may get from it in terms of what is his proposed policy prescriptions for Jamaica. So let us listen to him for a while, and then I'll be back with you with my own views on what he had to say.
As the General Secretary has said, We are ready for the general election. Our candidates are in place. We have done the work, and we are now fine-tuning and just preparing because we expect this election anytime. And we know that the government is in a desperate mode. They know the country has turned against them and their shenanigans and want a fresh, clean, new start to take Jamaica forward to a better place. But we're not being complacent. We cannot take this thing lightly. They don't intend to give it to us. We are going to have to do the work and do what it takes to make it happen. And I ask you, Southwest St. Anne, do you believe that we can make it happen? Are you ready for a new government? Are you ready for the People's National Party to assume government? I want Andrew to hear that in Beverly Hills tonight. And comrades, we have a fine team to form the next government. In critical ministries, we have people of vision, people of energy, people who are doing the research and the analysis to know what the problems are and where the solutions lie. We have heard from some of them tonight. We've heard from Dr. Alfred Davies in health, a man who is versed in the public health system, has worked as a surgeon in Savlamar Hospital, where he was heading up the medical team. He is not somebody who is just a PR expert, spinning a yarn to fool the people. And we see the outrageous situations in the health system. Cornwall Regional Hospital, where a project to renovate the hospital that was supposed to cost $2 billion is now gone over $21 billion and can't finish all now. We know what is happening in the health centers and in the hospitals. When you go in there and you're sick and you need a bed to be admitted, you can't get a bed. You have to be on a bench or in a wheelchair in a corridor in pain, and some of them don't survive it.
So the first person he introduced on his slate of candidates that he says are people of vision. So we are going to be listening to Dawes to hear what vision he has for the healthcare system. And folks, we have to listen good. Remember now, we listen out for vision, right? And if we don't hear him mention any vision, then it's time to reason that he has none. Would you agree? Because after all, his leader says he's going to come and tell us about his vision for the health system in Jamaica, presumably to make it better than it is now. And we're going to make sure that we distinguish between whether it is that we are hearing any vision or what we are hearing are the problems. Are there any solutions being offered, or are we just hearing about the problems? So we're looking out for the vision and solutions from Dr. Alfred Dawes. And he's the man on the screen, and we want to hear what he has to say. But before we move on to him, let us address this issue of the matter of the hospitals and people sitting on benches. Because this is not the first time politicians have been seeking to politicize something that when they were in power, they did not do anything about. And in all fairness to the last PNP administration, there just was no money to do much. And evidently, according to Andrew Holness, we have money like dirt now. So I would like to know what it is that the government is doing about these hospitals. You hear the Englishman talking about people going to hospitals and not getting any beds. So let me explain to the Englishman what is going on, or I'm sure he knows what's going on, even though he's a lawyer. I'm just hoping that you don't know what's going on, because it's not everybody that utilizes the hospital service. But I guess we all know somebody who has, and we have had a varying degree of experience with these hospitals. So let me explain. The vast majority of these hospitals in Jamaica now were built in the 1950s. Yes, we can credit the Labour Party for the hospitals. In the 1960s, when they came back into government after Norman Manley succeeded in negotiating with the British our exit and our independence, they also built a few more hospitals. So this is one area in which the Labour Party can take credit. So these hospitals are more than 50 years old. How much expansion was done over the period is where the problem lies. We have had in the 1970s free health, then it went back to user fees, and then when Bruce came back in 2007, he reverted to no fees, and we've had no fees ever since. But the main problem with these hospitals, you see, the hospitals are like hotels. When you're talking about a Wyndham Hotel, you're talking about a 500-room hotel or a 1,000-room hotel. They are based upon the number of rooms. So if you call Moon Palace for argument's sake to book a room and there are no more rooms available, meaning that the hotel full, it means you have to seek accommodation somewhere else. It is the very same thing that is happening in the hospitals. Hospitals are classified by the number of beds. For argument's sake, the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital, which is a Type B hospital, it was built in 1919. Yes, it's very old. It is classified as a 308-bed hospital, right? Then you have the ones that are in St. Mary and Portland. So in St. Mary, you have two hospitals, the Port Maria Hospital as well as the Anatole Bay Hospital. The Port Maria Hospital is a 60-bed hospital, that's a Type C. Anatole Bay, 95-bed hospital. And Port Antonio, 95-bed hospital. For Kingston, the Kingston Public Hospital has over 500 beds. So too, the University of the West Indies Spanish Town Hospital is said to have 516, but somehow I don't believe that that is correct. So we're talking about beds when we're talking about hospitals. Therefore, let us take for argument's sake St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital. We went there with Miss J, at least, yes, when she was taken ill. I went there from after 3 in the afternoon, and there were no beds. What exactly did it mean? That's when I realized what it meant. So when I see people at the Spanish Town Hospital and hospital elsewhere sleeping on the floor, sleeping on benches, sleeping in wheelchairs, from experience at the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital, I now know what it meant. Yes, didn't know what it was quite about before until I experienced it for myself. And it's very simple. Very simple. We went there after 3 p.m. and there were no beds. What it means exactly, let me explain to you. The hospital is a 308-bed hospital. And what it means is that every single one of those beds had somebody lie down in it who got there before me, sick and in need of health care, and were being provided with health care the best way the staff could. They're going to call that Englishman and Alfred Dawes for me and all of them that need to come, since them behaving like them are dunce, and I'm sure they are not. Yes, so let me continue now that they are here. The St. Anne's Bay Hospital is a 308-bed hospital. I'm just going to repeat for your benefits. What it means, when I went there that day in January last year with Miss J and was told that there were no beds for her, we had to wait at 3 p.m. until the following day at 8 a.m. Yes, we sat in that chair. She was in a wheelchair and I was on another chair, and we waited. Fortunately for us, there were no accidents on the road. That is far more likely to happen in St. Anne than a gunshot or stab up or chop up, right? Which meant that, we were fortunate to get a bed in the surgical ward for females. But what it is and why it is that other persons were waiting 3 days, it's very simple. The hospital has a certain capacity. The hospital is a 308 bed hospital, which meant that 308 people were lying down in those beds. In other words, the hospital had reached its capacity of 308 persons in those beds. Yes, that's what it meant. And they got there before us, including those who were waiting 3 days. And all of us had to wait until somebody was discharged or somebody or some number of persons died. That's just the reality, right? We didn't have no money to go to private, the private wing. I do believe they have a private wing. So, what therefore is the solution to that problem? To stand on the political platform and talk about the problem. And mind, this is not the first time people have been sleeping on benches and chairs. It has gone on for a while. And all the politicians do, all I want to do, is come talk about it and tell people how people sleep on chair, people sleep on floor, people sleep on bench. That's all we can hear. And never did any of you offer a solution. That is the reason why when the Labour Party is now in government, there is also the same thing happening. Because the people were not paying attention to the fact that UNO was not offering a solution, which suggests that none of you politicians seems to get what the real issue is. And that is why the problem persists until this day. Now, to show you how dumb some of you politicians are, right? And you really don't care about people. You only care about getting elected so you can collect 12 million and 25 million and all them something there. Let me show you something that happened last year with that clown Margolin. I'd like to ask a very serious question here. Was Mark drunk? Tell me what you think. He's coming through the crowd here with his mouth open, not focused, and he's rocking from side to side as if he's not steady on his feet. He's look at him. Is he drunk or possibly he's tired? And then he lifts his foot high. You'll soon see, as if he's stepping over something and there's nothing there. See? What? You see that? What's the matter with him? And then when he finally went up, he forgot his speech. I was talking gibberish.
It matters because the healthcare system is in a crisis. And all them at all, how them a build hospital or extend hospital. Because I'm not... The problem is that when you get sick in this country, dog, near me supper. You go to hospital, there is no bed. There is no bed for you. You have to end up spending time, hours, days on a bench or on a chair. And it can't work. We need to deal with that problem, and the government don't have no plan to deal with that problem.
You heard that? He said the government don't have no plan to deal with that problem, and yet it's him saying one, just moments before. So that all the government can talk about is, what am I say? What him say all the government can talk about is what? Let me play it for you again and hear what him say the government is talking about.
It matters because the healthcare system is in a crisis. And all them at all, how them a build hospital or extend hospital. Because I'm not...
You heard him. He said that the hospitals are in a crisis. The healthcare system is in a crisis. And all them are talk about is that them are going to build hospital and them are going to extend hospital. And then he realize he mistake and stop. That is the solution to the problem. If you have If you have 308 beds and you find that year in and year out, even months, that you have extra people waiting, 15, 20 people waiting every single day for beds, then the solution to the problem is to expand the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital, build another wing, and install more beds, 20 to 30 more beds, and you will solve the problem of people sleeping in wheelchairs, sleeping on floors, and sleeping on benches for days, waiting for care. That is the solution. In other words, what we need are more beds. We need to expand the capacity of the hospitals all around Jamaica that having the same problem. We need them to extend their capacity, and to do so, we need to have more beds. As simple as that. And to have more beds means you have to expand the hospital facilities by expanding the building structure of the hospital. And him, up to the time when him said, I never know that the government had a solution. It was him that came and let me know that the government said that they are going to be expanding the hospitals in order to provide more beds for the people who are waiting, because that is what the problem is. These hospitals were built long ago. The majority of them were built in the 1950s, and 1 and 2 in the 60s, and 1 and 2 after that. And the population has doubled since the time when these hospitals were built. So therefore, you need to expand the hospital so that they can have more beds to accommodate more people. As simple as that. But evidently, this Englishman didn't think that that was a solution, because that's what he said. All them talk about is that they're going to build more hospital and they're going to expand. I can't say it as well as he did. So I am going to play it again so you can hear for yourself.
It matters because the healthcare system is in a crisis. And all them talk about them build hospital or extend hospital. Because I'm not. The problem is that when you get sick in this country, dog, name your supper. You go to hospital, there is no bed. There is no bed for you. You have to end up spending time, hours, days on a bench or on a chair. And it can't work. We need to deal with that problem, and the government don't have no plan to deal with that problem. So I am here, comrades, not just to support her, but we need the seat, and we need you to help her to take it home, because we have to form the next government. Because Jamaica is headed down a track where poor people are suffer. People who are working are poor and they are suffering. I hear even labor rights supporters saying that them not get nothing off of the table is crumbs them getting, because it's one set of man that scrape everything.
Let me pause here for a moment, because I've always been fascinated by this idea that somehow everybody is suffering, the poor people, and only one set of people, right, getting a lion's share of everything. And we say these things and we don't really think about what we are saying to see if it makes any sense, especially in a country where 83% of the people are earning $15,000 and less. Yes, poor people. And I need for you to explain to me how it works. Alfred Dawes, come and explain to us how it is that there are few people that are gaining, benefiting from what is happening, and everybody else, especially the poor, are not getting anything. And I'd like to know if you are one of the few who are gaining from what is happening, from the government policies, which, by the way, is the very same policies that the PNP formulated during the Portia Peter Phillips time at the wicket. Yes. Bearing in mind that taxes were only raised between 2016 and 2017 in order to make up for the shortfall in the budget when the government gave up the 1.5. Remember the 1.5? Yes. The increase of the threshold to 1.5, they gave up 32 billion in taxes and had to go get it back. So in 2017, I do believe, was the last time taxes were raised. So there is no difference between the policies that were being pursued by the PNP and what is happening now, with the exception of the priorities that the government determine. Each government determine their own priorities, right? That will be the difference. But the policies that were there is the same policies. So if there are few people who are benefiting and getting rich at the expense of others, seems to be what you are trying to say, that them only getting crumbs, right? Then you're blaming the PNP for the policy. You're criticizing your own government. And I want to know, where is the benefit in that? The next thing I need for you to explain to me, Alfred Dawes, is how exactly that works. Where is it that these people who are rich, right, and are gaining from what is happening, where is it that they get the money from? Not from the consumers. Aren't they all, for the most part, business people? Yes, they're business people. They own business and they're selling goods or services to the population or to tourists, right? And to the extent that they're selling their goods and services to the Jamaican population, that is what you're talking about. And they are not benefiting. How is it that those people are getting rich? When a poor man earns $15,000 a week, he's either going to put that in the bank or he's going to spend it. He's going to spend it because that isn't much for a person to live on. And he's going to spend between 50 and 60% of it on food and transportation. Somewhere along the line, that will work its way into the business coffers and those people get rich. But the poor man is getting something out of the money that he's spending. And somewhere along the line, others will spend who have more money, accumulate more money, and the rich man will get rich that way. So to say that people are suffering and there are some persons who are gaining, they could not be gaining if the people in general did not have the money to spend. So they spend the money and those people get rich. And when they spend the money, presumably they are getting what is known as satisfaction from the expenditure. So how it is that you're saying that they are suffering? The only one who should be suffering are those who don't have no money. And then if they don't have no money, it means they have no money to spend. And if they have no money to spend, then it will be impossible for the rich man to get richer of those persons, and must therefore be poorer because they are poor. So you see, you're not making any sense. This idiotic argument about somehow people can get poor while other people get rich. How does that work? When the rich are depending on the spending of the 83% poor people in order to get rich. So you need to come and explain what you're talking about, because it's not making any sense. So we are going to dismiss this argument until we can hear further from you how it is that the policies of the government, which is the PNP policies that is being carried on, right, by the Labour Party government, which is good. When you get a good policy, you must carry it on. You don't mash it up and then mash up the whole country, right? And we are now seeing the benefit of it. And you are saying that the people are doing well in the economy. So if there are people in this society who are getting rich, the few, then it can only be because the poor people are better off and can spend more. And that is exactly the case, because the minimum wage has increased more than double in Jamaican dollars and almost double in real terms when you convert it to US dollars. So if that is too difficult for you to understand, I don't know what you will understand. Anyway, let's listen to what else he has to say.
But comrades, because of this PR government, every time I have spoken about the condition of the health sector, you hear that I created mischief. When I spoke about the ventilators, Them said them have the ventilators and it took a child dying at Matalon Hospital for Jamaica to know that we have a problem with ventilators. When I spoke about ambulances not being roadworthy, they said it is not true. And it took a tourist dying at the Sanchez International Airport before they believed that there is a problem with ambulances in Jamaica. When I said that we have a problem with CT scans and MRIs, and yet they say that we are making mischief. But I have one thing to say because I have warned them about the ventilators, and we saw that coming. We saw the issues with the ambulance coming. We saw the issues with the doctors coming before there was a strike. We saw the issues with the CT scan. And now we are seeing the problem with the entire healthcare system collapsing. We see it coming and it has to stop. But one thing I see coming, comrades, I see a comet that is coming, and it is an orange comet, and it is going to wipe away the green man and their peer government.
So you have been paying attention, right? And all that you would have heard are a list of problems. Did you notice something that you did not hear? You did not hear a solution. You did not hear a promise that when the orange comet comes and wipe out the green man them, you haven't heard what it is that he is planning to do in order to make anything better. Are you understanding me? So it's all about power. It's not about what it is they come to do for you, these risers that capture the PNP. Right? Let's listen now to what the Englishman had to say about his plans for health, if anything.
We have Damon Crawford in education. Damon is a man thinking about education and training in this country 24/7. And I know that the only solution and the only hope for education in this country is to have a man with the energy and determination and vision, or Damon Crawford, to carry Jamaica out of the slump which it now is in education, and educate our people so that we can be productive, we can create wealth, we can get a better life, we can build a better Jamaica. And Damien, I'm looking forward to working with you when we achieve those great things.
We are going to educate our people so that we can be productive, we can create wealth and get a better life. And then him turned to Damien and said what?
And Damien, I'm looking forward to working with you when we achieve those great things.
I suppose he means that he's looking forward to working with Damien to achieve those great things. I'm not quite sure. I don't fully get it, but perhaps that's what he's saying. But I want you to pay close attention. He's speaking about Damien's vision. Dawes' vision, Damien's vision. Let's see what else he's saying.
In agriculture, we have Dr. Dayton Campbell, a son of the soil of St. Anne. And he is going to put the energy that he has, the strength and power that he has to fix agriculture, to give the Jamaican farmers a better deal so that they get the support they need, the financing they need so that they can invest in their farms, the cold storage facilities, so that they can ensure that if they have excess crops, they don't have to dump them or push them in the market to collapse the price, but they can be held in cold storage. Farm roads must get attention. Irrigation must get attention. RADA must be properly resourced to support the farmers. We have many talented persons on the stage. We have Philip Palwell, the man who broke the monopoly in telecommunications in this country, so that we can have a competitive market, and there's more work to be done in that area too. But he is going to be focused on energy and the electricity system in the country, where Jamaica's electricity is so expensive that we can't be competitive in manufacturing on a global scale, and where the people are suffering from the high bills. And there's so much people who can't afford to regularize their own houses so that they can become lawful customers and have to be doing other things to get light.
So let me pause here and do a little analysis with you. He is speaking about what? Let's remind ourselves.
But he is going to be focused on energy and the electricity system in the country, where Jamaica's electricity is so expensive that we can't be competitive in manufacturing on a global scale, and where the people are suffering from the high bills.
You heard that, right? Yes, you heard it. And you must be wondering if you're hearing right. So am I. Right? What did he say? Where Jamaicans' electricity is so expensive, we can't be competitive in manufacturing on a global scale, and the people are suffering from high bills. This is the same man who sat on that tax policy review committee in 2004, the one that Omar Davies set up to look at reforming the tax system, basically to see whether or not, or advise the government on what effect the tax system that was there at present, still the same tax system more or less now, what effect it had on productivity and business investments. They were supposed to come up with recommendations as to how the tax system may be reformed in order to make it more equitable, so the burden of taxation can be more equitably distributed. They were tasked with the responsibility to simplify the tax system, and if they had proposals, whatever they do, it must be revenue neutral. And as we said before, revenue neutral means that whatever you're asking the government to give up in tax, you need to tell the government where they're going to get the additional tax from to fill the gap. That's what is meant by revenue neutral. The government must, at the end of it, not have less taxes or any more than was budgeted for. Right? This man sat on that committee. And what did they propose to Omar Davies? This committee, which was chaired by Joe Matalon, Mark was a member, so too were some accountants and others. A trade unionist, Lloyd Goodley, and he, as a lawyer, Mark Golding, and representing the PSOJ, and I believe two other PSOJ persons, right? So what did they propose when they reviewed our tax system? One, they wanted stamp duty to be scrapped. Stamp duty is what you pay whenever you're doing any legal documents. So if you're selling properties, the transfer instrument or the sale agreement, one of them would need to be stamped. If you're setting up a company, you would need stamping. And also if you do any business with any companies and they give you a receipt, a stamp, they normally give you a little stamp, post office stamp at the back, that all of that is stamp duty. They want that scrapped. So whatever it will cost the government to scrap, they want it scrapped, right? They also want the abolition of education tax and the hard trust contribution, both to companies and to employees, which now would meant that HART would collapse. That is a training institution that was set up by Eddie Siaga in the 1980s. Where would the funding come from for it? So it would collapse. So they wanted to get rid of HART. They also wanted the corporate tax to be reduced from 33.33% to 25%, and that was done. They recommended a 138% increase in the PAYE threshold. That was done many times by both governments. So that more or less, and other things they wanted reduced. So now that they want those things reduced, and that would mean that the government now would lose taxation. They have to now find money now, or tell the government where they are going to get the tax from, what they must tax in order to fill the gap of what it is they are losing if they should take on this proposal. So what did they propose? They wanted GCT to be increased by 1% and all the exemptions removed, and GCT to be put on all goods and services, which means every time you spend money on anything at all, you pay GCT. At the time, GCT was 15%, so I guess it would have gone to 16%, right? You pay 16% on everything that you spend on. They also wanted GCT to go on fuel. They wanted GCT to go on fuel, right? That's 16%. So in addition to the special consumption tax and the ad valorem tax, they wanted GCT to go on top of those. And they went and they argued that that is the most efficient. That is the most efficient tax, taxing fuel. Of course, the parliamentarians were in no mood for that, because just 5 years before that, we had that 1999 gas riot and nearly burned down the whole place. So they were in no mood for it. And that the government never took on. No government took that on. Omar was in love with the idea, but nobody would support him in it. Now, what I find fascinating is that what was happening, why it was that those raft of proposals were not introduced. Omar said that these proposals, where you're going to take the tax off of the rich man, because stamp duty, those are people with assets. Stamp duty, and you're talking about death duty, the scrapping of the education tax, and also hard tax, among other things that they were proposing. The GCT would hit the poor man the hardest, because whereas somebody earning 30 million a year can afford to pay 4.5 million, 4.6 million, that is nothing to him. He's still going to eat steak and mushroom and go out and entertain himself and so on. But for the poor man, especially these days, spending 1,500, 1,600 in tax whenever I'm going to buy something, that means a lot to him. That 1,500 could buy him something, could send his children to school, because he doesn't have much. So Omar, recognizing it would hit the people hard, refused to implement, right? Bruce Golding attempted to implement with Audley, and it collapsed the economy 5.1%. In addition to all that was happening, it caused further damage to the economy, because the man simply just did not have the money to spend. 50 to 60% of the poor man's income is spent on food and transportation. So therefore, when you put the tax on him, he has nothing to spend. So I'm going to cut back. And when him cut back, the business is going to suffer. Why? Because it's 83% of those persons who are on the minimum wage who make up the bulk of the economy. And if their income is suppressed, or they have nothing to spend because you're taxing them, then the economy is going to suffer. The politicians were in the way, because when they tried it with Omar, and Omar didn't take them on with it, except for one or two items, they started to go around the place promoting it, calling in the private sector bigwigs, telling them that this is a good thing. That's what they did. But they could not get it implemented because the politicians were in the way. And then what has happened now? Finally, one of their members is now leading one of the major political parties. They can now implement something that Matalon told his colleagues. Don't pressure us on that. Don't ask us to change anything. Just go and look at it and do the maths. You will see that what we are proposing is going to benefit you. And a member of that committee is now running one of the major political parties looking to be prime minister. And here is he in seeking to be elected to get votes, telling you that what he is going to do, were you stupid enough to put him into Jamaica House, is that he's going to do something about the electricity because electricity cost is too high. This is what I'm telling you, Electricity cost is too high and the manufacturers can't compete. This is a man, who wanted GCT to be put on fuel and was going around Kingston at the conference center all over the place, meeting with the private sector bigwigs, selling them the idea of this plan that is going to benefit them. Want to bring in them on board so that they could pressure the government as big business people, right? Pressure the government to implement what they claim was going to grow the economy and was equitable, which was a lie. It could not have been equitable if you want the man at the bottom earning starvation wages to be paying 10% of his income just so that you can pay less. You're going to put the burden of tax on him and you're going to call that equitable? No, it was a lie. And they wanted to bring all of the private sector people, show them how them all go benefit from it. Taking the tax off of them shoulders and putting it on the poor people. And that was going to grow the economy. And poor Hardly, poor Hardly got pay them mind with the indirect taxation. Right? Did just as they suggested, not to the full extent because they did not remove all of the items in GCT and it did not put GCT on everything. So it was only partial. You imagine what would have happened if they had put that program fully in place that they wanted. It was only partial and it cost the country 5.1% of production. A lot of business collapse because the poor man just did not have the money to spend because of him then tax. And he was one of them telling the people that the tax reform that they were proposing was going to grow the economy. One of the effects that the tax reform would have is that it would have driven up the price of everything in this country. Which tax reform I'm talking about? The GCT that they were thinking of putting on everything. Because when GCT is put on anything, it's actually an inflationary tax. If the manufacturer produces, he charges GCT to the wholesaler, who then charges GCT to the retailer, and then the retailer charges you GCT, and then you, the consumer, and me, the consumer, who pays because every time they pay GCT and they charge GCT, it's only the difference they hand over to the government. Companies do not pay GCT, only consumers. That's the people and companies that consume whenever they consume. And as I said, whenever they pay GCT for anything that they are consuming, they actually can claim it back. And so it's only people who pay GCT. So when he was proposing that GCT should go on fuel, that would have driven the price up on everything. And they said that that is the most efficient system and that the government must implement. That would mean that our manufacturers, our exporters, everybody would have become less efficient. But remember, those big businesses would have paid less in tax in terms of the tax on gross profit, I do believe, which is the education tax and the hard trust. They would have paid less. So the real business people who would suffer are those small business, right? They are the ones who would really suffer. And not to mention the consumers. The consumers who are poor people were the ones who would have paid that price. With less money to spend, it meant that businesses would collapse. And when businesses collapse, it would ultimately mean the collapse of the economy. But the politicians were in the way of that. So they did not get what they want. Right? And now, look at the position that they are in. One of the members is now leading one of the main political parties looking to be prime minister. The opportunity now to implement that reform is at hand. That is why you saw Joe Matalon coming out to endorse Mark Golding. And that is why the others were endorsing Peter Bunting. Because they now have the opportunity that they never had before to implement everything they wanted to implement in that tax policy review committee that was led by Matalon, of which Mark Golding was a member. Are you understanding what I'm telling you, my friends? Yes. So when you see Mark on the podium now, remember now, him saying wanted one to increase the production, and make the whole country uncompetitive, in order to enrich himself, because they would have benefited from the reform that they were proposing. And in order to make themselves richer by paying less taxes, they wanted to kill, or they were prepared to kill, our local industry, our competitive edge. And now he's going to come and tell you on the political platform that he is going to do something about electricity costs. And he can't tell you what he's going to do. No, he has no intention of doing any such thing. But you see, when he was in the private sector, he could say those things. Now he's looking votes. He needs to put himself in Jamaica House. And therefore, he has to tell you what you want to hear, so that you'll be stupid enough to go to the polling station and put him in Jamaica House. So he's not telling you anything what he means. That's why I can't tell you what it is that he's going to do. No, if you give no details, just tell you what I'm going to do. I can't tell you, because it's not his intention. His intention is to make sure that he gets elected. He has spent, him and Bunting and the others, $1.6 billion, right? Up to this point, to last year in any event, trying to maintain them whole of the PNP. They must get to Jamaica House. Otherwise, all of that money will go up in smoke, because they could not stay another 5 years, not even another year, when them lose. Right? So this is the reason why you're not hearing any plans. You're not hearing any vision. Matter of fact, he's talking about the vision, but he's not talking about a vision for the party. The party has no vision. He's talking about Damien's vision. He's talking about Dawes' vision, Dayton Campbell's vision. He's talking about Paul Well's vision. 4 different visions. Right? No cohesion. No party vision. Why? Because that is not what they're about. What they're about is hoodwinking themselves into Jamaica House so that they can do what it is they come there to do, and spend that whole heap of money for them and them cronies. Yes, them spend that money because they want to control the government for a reason. Bunting and Golding went to them and told them what them plan to do and want them support, and the whole of them put their money together, 1.6 billion so far, in order that them can get into Jamaica House and do what it is them intend to go there and do. And that not have nothing to do with you and me. That has to do with them. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving your comments in the comment section. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and walk good.